I apologize in advance to Emily and Joey and Tamara if I don't do the story justice. I am really sorry. It's a lot. It's a mouthful. It's a lot to figure out. And everybody, because I've heard the story repeated about 100 times over the last week, everybody has different parts that matter to them, right? And so if I don't cover the part that matters to you the most, I apologize, but it wasn't the part that mattered to me the most.
Okay, so for the sake of your storytelling, do you want us just to listen instead of ask questions?
No, you can ask questions. It's fine.
Okay.
Let's just do this like normal, all right?
Okay.
Now, first off, let me say, I would like to tell you, I woke up with a nightmare the night before this happened, and I had a conversation with Emily. I can't tell you what that conversation is yet, because it'll spoil the story, but I'll tell you at the end if you remind me to come back to it, okay?
It's non-linear.
It's non-linear. While we were in Mexico, we decided to go snorkeling. I will also say that I have been snorkeling quite a few times in my life. Been snorkeling in the ocean a few times. Been snorkeling at this very island, Isla Mujeres, before. Consider myself familiar with the snorkeling as a concept and fairly experienced in it. So previously, I had snorkeled. We'd done some reefs, a reef, and we'd done like an underwater museum that they have out there that's really cool. And this time, there were a lot of advertisements to go snorkeling with whale sharks. So we started to look into it, and it seemed like this really cool opportunity. I guess once a year, whale sharks come. They typically live, a couple hundred feet below water. They're sharks, not whales, so they don't have to come up for oxygen. But they have giant mouths, but their mouths don't open. They can't have teeth, so they can only eat plankton, so they're not dangerous, right? And about once a year, they will come up at this spot in the ocean where the Gulf Coast and the Pacific Ocean or Atlantic Ocean meet, or the oceans off Mexico. And I guess it's like a feeding frenzy for them, and there'll be hundreds out there eating at the surface, and manta rays too. And supposedly it's a really cool, unique thing, and so there were a lot of advertisements to go snorkeling with the whale sharks. And we had such a positive experience snorkeling there previously that we were like, hey, let's do that. Let's all do that. And so the whole big group of us were going to go. 2 people backed out, so it ended up just being me and Emily and our other 2 friends. The thing I liked about it is it's like a weird thing to go snorkeling with like animals, and I was a little worried about like is this appropriate? And they were like, yeah, it's really ecologically minded. They wouldn't let us wear sunscreen at all because the sunscreen could irritate or affect the food or the whale sharks in some negative way. So we had to go out and buy like full body like wetsuit kind of deals because it was like this 1,000 degrees in the sun, and it's like a 4-hour tour, right?
Oh,
very similar to Gilligan's Island. So we get there, and this lady comes out, the lady who we bought the tour from. We're sitting right on the beach there, right in front of the boat. And she comes up, and we talked to her for about 15 minutes. She gives us the rundown, and we're like, all right, let's get to it. And she goes, oh yeah, no, let me introduce you to Captain. I'm not the one that does it. I just coordinate it. And we're like, oh, okay. So then this captain comes out. And he gives us a spiel about, like, he's really funny and engaging, and he's really well-versed, and they explain to us that it's, we're in their territory, so we have to be respectful, and he explains, like, all the different scenarios where we could annoy a whale shark and how to avoid it. He's got all these little funny quips like, how, like, when you're eating at a picnic and flies are buzzing around while you're trying to eat your lunch, you're the flies, so be respectful, yada, yada, yada. And it's all really good information, and we can only go in, like, 2 people at a time, so, like, the other couple will go in, and when they come out, we'll go in because we don't want to overwhelm the whale sharks. It's all designed with being really respectful to the whale sharks and their environment, which I think is pretty cool. And so he's like, all right, you guys ready? And we're like, yeah, let's go. And then we're like, point us to the boat. And he goes, oh, no, I'm not taking you. These other guys are taking you. And at this point, I think, well, that's a little weird. I'm on my 3rd person. And so, surely at some point, I'm going to talk to the person that's going to take us out, right? So he takes us out to this. He actually just points to the boat, and we go out there, and there's these 2 dudes on it, like a captain and like a diver dude, right?
But was the first guy a captain?
He was like the head of the company, I guess. He was a captain, yeah. So anyway, these guys, we get there, we get on the boat, and it becomes apparent these guys don't speak a lot of English, and why would they? They're Hispanic and they're in Mexico, right? And so there's a bit of a language barrier at the get-go, which is fine. We make it work. No big deal. So we get in the boat, and it's, it's not a big boat. It's like one of those little boats you'd see off the coast. I don't know a lot about boats, but it's got two little twin Yamaha 150 engines on the back. That's very important. Two twin Yamaha 150 engines. Boy, does that become a big deal. And it's one of those boats that probably holds about 12 people. It's just seats all the way around. It's not super fast, and it's covered with like a tarp at the top, like a nice tarp. And so they're like, okay. By the way, I should mention, one thing that gave me pause is in the previous instructions from the first captain, who I thought was going to be taking us out, he mentioned that we were going about 50 miles off the coast in open ocean.
Wow.
Yeah. It's 50 miles into the ocean. 50 miles. And I thought, that's a lot further than I thought it would be. And he goes, yeah, it's going to take about 45 minutes to get out there. It takes about 45 minutes in these little boats to go 50 miles.
That's a fast boat.
Yeah. And like 45, 50 miles somewhere. It's like, it's not a exact science, right? It's like wherever the whale sharks are that day, but it's he said it's about 70 to 85 kilometers or so, which in my head is about 45 to 50 miles, right? I think. Anyway, it's pretty fucking far out there. So we hop in the boat, and I don't get seasick. I'm not uneasy about this. I've been whale watching before, the whole thing, but they recommend we take Dramamine for nausea, and so I'm like, fuck it, I will. Yeah, like why not? Why tempt fate? So we all take our Dramamine. Not that I think it's going to be an issue at all. Then we take off, and we start to go, and after about 15 minutes or so, I realize we're not going really fast, and I look over, and the guy is like fucking with the controls, trying to get one of the engines is pegged, and the other one is just like going back and forth. And he's trying to, and the other guy's back there kind of kicking it and looking at it, and we realize they start screwing. We slow down, and I'll say if we were going in fifth gear, like if this was a car, we're going in like third gear now, and they're like speaking to each other, and I can't quite understand it. They seem agitated. The vibe starts to shift. I'll say that. The vibe, it just doesn't seem as pleasant as it was. And there is obviously a problem with one of the engines. I can still see land. We're like, I said 15 minutes out. We're like maybe 10 minutes out. I can still see land. So I'm kind of not too worried, but I'm also like, well, we can just go back. And they're like, and they kind of wave us off when we're like, do we need to, and they're like, no, that's fine. And they go back there, and he's like kicking the engine, and he's like working on it. And we just keep going. The other guy just goes forward with one engine while the other guy tries to fix the first engine. Eventually, he gives up, and we just go forward with one engine. At this point, we're 30, 40 minutes out, and I'm like, oh, well, we've only got about 10 minutes before we'll be at 10 minutes to 20 minutes before we'll be at the whale sharks, right? But I start to notice that boats come by, and they're passing us like we're sitting still. And I realize they're going way, way, way faster than us because they're in fifth gear because both of their engines work. Mm-hmm. We're going like third on one engine, and it's starting to get real bumpy in third gear. When you're going in fifth gear, you're cutting right through those waves. When you're going in third gear, you are not. We are getting kind of battered around. Like I'm starting to get a bruise on the back of my lower back from getting slammed into the back of the boat over and over again. And we're not like nauseous or anything, but it's not pleasant, right? We do that. The 45-minute ride out to the whale sharks ended up being a little over an hour and a half. By the time we roll up, I see the boats out there. We're all feeling pretty worn out. Like it's been a long hour and a half, getting blasted in the sun with no sunscreen, getting jostled around, going like we're bobbing like fucking motherfuckers because we're not going that fast. We get out there, and first off, I thought this was going to be this intimate experience. There's 40 boats in the water, and I don't know how they're not slamming into each other because this is open fucking ocean. Like I haven't seen land in an hour at this point. We are so far out there. And I discover I'm not super cool with that. Like, I'm okay with it. Obviously, we're safe, but it's weird to be in that small of a boat that far away from something from land, right? And all these boats, and it's getting so there's all these boats like floating around, and I noticed that on every boat, 2 or 3 people are hanging off the boat just throwing up. Like I'm probably watching 20 people puke at the same time.
I like that there's no sunscreen, but you're allowed to just vomit all over.
Well, I don't think they had a choice, dude. There's no way to hold it in, right? And so the waves are fucking huge too here. And then the guy comes over and he gives, there's not even a discussion of who's getting in the water yet. He just gives Emily and I flippers, and we brought our own snorkels because we thought that'd be the safest with COVID and stuff. And so the guy goes, "Here, put these on." And so I'm like putting them on, and she's like putting hers on. And before, the guy had given us the spiel, the first captain had given us a spiel. When you get in the water, just look straight down. Just look straight down. There's no whales above you. The whale sharks are going to be below you. But you also need to keep in mind where the boat is, where the diver is, and where your partner is at all times. But also don't look up, only look down. And I'm like, well, that seems complicated. So, and I'm interested to see how that's going to work in practice. So anyway, he gives us these. I'm starting to just like casually put a thing on, and then the guy screams, go now, go now, go now. And Emily and I are like, what? And we're not even sure if it's us. And he's just pointing at us going, go now. And then he goes over and he points to him and he jumps in the water like we're supposed to do. And we're like, and the other guy's like, go now. And we're like, and so we're like putting our flippers on, and we just jump into the water, right? Jump into a huge roiling ocean full of people and waves and boats. And my snorkel flies off. One of my fins flies off my foot. And so I'm like in open ocean trying to put my fucking fin back on and trying to fit my snorkel on while I'm bouncing around, and like a wave will come up and I can't see anything. I can't see anybody. And then the wave will crash back down and I'll suddenly see 40 boats and 100 people. And it's fucking scary. And I'm like looking around. So I just start looking at the ground, like looking in the ocean, and all I just see is blue, just like hundreds of feet of blue and nothing. It's the scariest thing I've ever seen. And I'm like, where are these fucking whale sharks? But then I'm like, oh, I got to look at Emily. I got to look at the guy, right? So I look up and Emily's over there. So I like try to grab her hand and she grabs mine. And then the guy's like, ah, and he's like yelling at me. And I'm like, fuck what? And I don't understand what he's saying. He's like, and he just starts pointing. He's like, follow. And I'm like, so I just start swimming, right? And start swimming. And then he's like, get on the boat. And I'm like, oh, okay. And so like, then we're like trying to get on the fucking boat and the waves are crashing. I'm like slammed against the side of the fucking boat. And I eventually climb up the ladder. And by the time I get back on the ladder, we've been in the water for 45 seconds to a minute. Maybe I'm exhausted. Emily looks like she is fucking done. And we're both like, what the fuck was that? And then I just hear chatter over the radio going, no whales, no whale sharks, no whale sharks. And then we just start, and the guy's like, no sharks here. And then we just take off. And I'm like, what the fuck? And I look at Emily and she goes,
what?
I look at Emily and she goes, I'm not getting back in the water. And I go, yeah, I know. They'll go next. And then we just start going, and we're just leaving all these other boats behind. And that actually scares me because we're going off on our own. And all I can hear is chatter over the radio of them saying like, no whale sharks here, whatever. So like we're going to another location, right? But we're going in third gear again, and we're going slow. And at this point, the dip into the terrifying dip into the open ocean, and then getting slammed around, and then slammed into the boat, and then back up in. I'm starting to get a little seasick at this point, and we go for, I want to say, another 30 or 40 minutes further out into the ocean, and eventually I'm starting to wonder if these guys are just taking us out to dump us, because there's nobody around and it's scary and there's no communication, and they're I can tell these guys are getting more stressed by the boat. Oh, I should also point out, I'm starting to smell a lot. When we got into the water and we came back into the back of the boat, we're smelling a ton of gasoline. Like it's a very intense smell of gasoline at the back of the boat. And Emily and I are like, this does not feel good.
I have a question. At this point in the story, am I supposed to know what the hell happened back there?
Back where? At the back of the boat?
With all like this, like go now and like get in the boat. Like,
no, that you don't know anything more than I do, dude.
Okay.
They told us that we go to the spot where the whale sharks are. They scream at us to jump in. We jump in. Then they scream at us to get out, and then we just take off. And they're like, there were no whale sharks there. And then eventually, in that 30 minutes, boats start slamming past us again, like we're standing still. We get to another location. This time, there's about 20 boats. The whole thing happens again. They like throw the stuff at Joey and Tamara. They're like, you guys get ready. I should also point out at some point that this is supposed to be a lunch and ceviche where they prepare ceviche live in front of you, and they have gourmet sandwiches and shit. Not that I'm hungry at this point, but other people are. And we get out there, and it's even worse there, and there's less boats there. And it's like the waves are even worse, and there's just like no whale sharks. And they're like, no sharks here. We go again. And I think Tamara goes, no, that's enough. No, we're not going to another location. We're good. Just take us back. We're done. Like, we're 2.5 hours into this. We've been getting slammed left and right. I'm fucking not feeling well. Emily looks like she's feeling terribly. Joey seems fine. He owns a boat, and and the other girl, Tamara, she lived on a yacht for like a sailboat for a couple years. Not a yacht, but a sailboat for a couple years. So like they're well versed sea people, and Joey's fine. Tamara looks like she's not feeling great either. And so the guy's like, he kind of shrugs and is like, okay. So we turn around and we just start heading. We think back. We're looking on a compass on our phone, like, yeah, we're headed towards land. I guess this is the way. And we just start going a little bit slower. And a little bit slower, and at some point they throw sandwiches at us, and I open mine up, and it's just 2 pieces of like white bread with like as it was described, if it was 1 slice of ham sliced on a 1, like it was like you could see through it, and there's just a shitload of mayonnaise. So the mayonnaise was a non-starter for me, right? So I'm like, well, I'm not going to do that. And then I see the ceviche. It's literally a 5-gallon like Home Depot bucket just full of shrimp. And I'm like, it doesn't look appetizing either. Just open shrimp in a 5-gallon bucket. So I'm like, clearly I'm not eating on this trip. But I'm not super hungry anyway.
It's like bread and a bucket of chum.
Yeah, bread and a bucket of chum is what we're looking at. And so, and there's no Diet Coke, by the way, which really, that was the thing that pissed me off. They only had Coke and Sprite. No Diet Coke. And so I'm just trying to drink a Sprite, and I'm feeling really bad. And Emily's, I can tell, feeling really bad. And we're now 45 minutes into the trip back, and the boat keeps going slower. And I'd say about 45 minutes, I noticed that we're not really going. We just seem to be kind of floating. Well, I should go back. I should dial back to maybe about 20 minutes before this moment. We're sitting there, and I'm rocking, and then I realize I'm absolutely going to throw up. There was no way to hold it back, and so I run over to the side of the boat, and I throw up a good 5 or 6 times. Huge vomit.
And is the boat moving?
Oh, yeah, so slowly, but it is moving. And I'm like, just this fucking ocean nausea vomiting, right? It's not pretty. It's a horrible sound. Oh, Henry's here. Found his... Hi, buddy. Yeah, that's right. You fucked that toy up.
This story's just the best. I hope it never ends. Keep going.
Well, we got a ways to go. I turn back to look at Emily because she's like, "Are you all right?" And she sees me and she almost throws up in her mouth and turns away and goes, "I can't look at you. I can't look at you." And I'm like, "Oh my God, what?" And I don't know. I just like am sitting there and I sit there for a while and Emily's just like, I can't look at you. I'm gonna throw up. I couldn't figure out why. I thought it was because I was throwing out over the ocean. After a few minutes, like maybe about 5 minutes after I calmed down, I touch my face and I realize my face is covered in puke. And Emily said later it looked like I drank a cappuccino of vomit, and it was just like I had like a cappuccino mustache of puke around, And so I'm like trying to wipe it off, and you see water. And oh boy, Henry. Give it a break on give the octopus a break. God damn. Oh yeah, now settle in, hunker down. That's good. Yeah, he's getting cozy, so he can really.
Is that different to the owl that you usually have?
Yeah, owl's in the other room. This is
okay.
This is puss as we call it. Little blue octopus. So at this point, I lay down and I'm like, I got to go to sleep because I'm exhausted, and I start to fall asleep just laying on the side of the boat, like just holding my tummy. And every time I wake up as I'm falling to the floor, or my head is slamming back into the side of the ocean from the waves. Right. So that's where I was for 20 minutes. Eventually I get up, and then I realized that we're going really slow at some point in this. We're probably about 45 minutes into the return. And I look back there and I realize neither engine is going. And I hear the guy trying to start it. And and then for the next 30 minutes, I can only say I watched 2 men try to get it took me a while to piece together what was happening. There was a lot of yelling. There was a lot of screaming on the mic, over the radio. I just keep hearing caliente, caliente over the radio, caliente. And I look, and then I realize, I guess the other engine, the one that was working, has overheated from excessive use. And so the guy is literally standing on the top of it, trying to push it into the ocean to submerge it to cool it down. So now we're in a situation where I think we're going to die. We're probably going to die. I haven't seen land in 3 hours. I've been beaten to hell, banged around for hours and hours. I've got no food in me. The only food available is slathered in mayonnaise and chum. And I got a half a Sprite to my name. And this guy's trying to trying to submerge the boat to save the engine, essentially. And so they eventually work out a system where they drive for a few minutes really slowly. If we were in third gear before, we're in first gear now, which, by the way, first gear in open ocean, you don't go forward. It's like you kind of go in whatever direction the ocean tells you to go with a little bit of zeal, just a little gusto in that direction. So we're going left, we're going right, we're going back, occasionally forward. Very rarely we're certainly not going in a straight line, and we're not going anywhere, right? And every once in a while, the engine will conk out, and then it'll be too caliente, and they'll be like trying to cool it down, and then after a few minutes, they'll like it'll get started again, and then we'll go for a few more minutes, and then it'll stop, and we're like, what is going on? How long till we get back? And the guy goes, 30 minutes. And I'm like, there's no fucking way we're going to be back in 30 minutes. We're hours away from land at this point. I don't even know that we're headed in the right fucking direction. It's brutal. And then sure enough, about 30 minutes later, 2 boats show up on the horizon. And I'm thinking about writing my goodbyes at this point. Like, I don't know what else to do. We're just getting slammed left and right. I'm beyond nauseous. Joey seems fine, like he's having a great day. Emily looks like she wants to die.
He's just tucking into the chum.
He's fine. He's happy. He doesn't get seasick. He's loving life, right? Tamara's doing. I found out later it was to keep herself from vomiting. She was doing New York Times crossword puzzles on her phone, which I don't know how that kept her from vomiting, because anytime I focused on anything, it made me want to vomit. But anyway, 2 boats show up on the horizon, and we're like, "What's this?" And they're like, one of the boats and the guys aren't talking to us. They're in a bad mood, and we're in a bad mood. And I can tell this has been very stressful on them. Probably not as stressful as it's been on us, but maybe ignorance is bliss. I don't know how close to dead we are, right? This other boat it's another whale shark watching tour, full boat, right? It gets a little close to us, and the guy turns to us and he goes, they're going to take you back. And we're like, oh, so we're going to get on that boat? And he goes, yeah. And I go, how? And he goes, go now. And we go, what? And he goes, go now. Get in the ocean. Go now. And we're like, what? Our stuff. And he goes, don't worry about it. Go now. I've got your stuff. And we're like, what? And we all dive into the ocean. And then we have to swim through these giant waves and crazy with no flippers on or anything. Just like fucking, I got my hat on, my clothes. I just fucking swim barely to get to the beach, slam against this other boat, which is way too far away. I get there, pull ourselves up, get on the boat, right? No idea what just happened. Look back, and I'm like, all our stuff's on that boat. And then I see all of our shit just flying through the air from one boat to another. They're just chucking it at us, right? Just like, there goes my bag. There goes Emily's bag. There goes somebody's hat. And I realize, oh my God, my phone and my wallet are in my shoes. Oh, there go my shoes. Threw my shoes 30 feet in the air over open ocean with my phone and my fucking wallet. And I fucking run up. They're there. We didn't lose anything. But I was like, oh, I couldn't believe it, dude. It was the most horrific thing I've ever seen. It's like just all of our shit, like, clang, exploding on the ground on the boat, right? Then those guys, the boat we're on, they like sit down. We sit down for a second. Then we just take off. And those guys, as far as I know, they're still there. We just left them. We just left them bobbing in the ocean, and we assaulted some other cruise. Right. So then we're on this other cruise. It becomes very apparent very quickly. Nobody on this boat speaks English either. The people on the cruise are from somewhere in Eastern Europe, and then the boat captain and stuff there. And so they're like, all the seats in the back, they communicate to us, all the seats in the back are full. You're going to have to sit up front. We're like, yeah, okay. Why? Who cares? Whatever. We're just happy to sit. So we sit up front, and then they crank this thing into 5th gear. Suddenly we're going. Nausea goes away immediately like a light switch. We start cutting through the waves. But the reason nobody wanted to sit up front is because every wave we get drenched. I'm talking torrential, like 17 5-gallon buckets of water thrown in your face all at once, which is quite refreshing after everything else. And then we just rocket back, just drenched from head to toe. But the nausea's gone. I couldn't be happier. I'm smiling from ear to ear. So much that I'm just swallowing gallons of salt water because I don't even care, because it's just slamming me in the face it's like a movie. So then we start to pull back up to Isla Mujeres, and we put 2 and 2 together. On their tour, it goes to a sandbar by the beach. But the previous tour, we had done this as well, where you go to this like sandbar off the coast where the water is really blue and pretty, and then people go swimming. And then so we get there and we dock, like they throw down the anchor and they're like, okay, they communicate, we're going to be here for about 15 minutes, go swimming, relax, then we'll cook up some fresh ceviche for you, and then we'll take you guys back to Cancun. And we're like, swimming is the last thing on earth I want to fucking do right now. B, I won't be eating again anytime soon. And C, did you say Cancun? And they're like, yeah, this charter goes to Cancun. And I'm like, no. We're here on this island. Take us to a dock on this island. And he's like, no, we don't go to a dock on this island. We dock in Cancun. And I'm like, yeah, but we're already here. And Cancun is 35 miles that way. And then when we get to Cancun, we have no way to get back. So then we'll have to figure out how to get from your dock to the ferry, and then the ferry only runs every 30 minutes, so we'll have to buy tickets, and then we'll have to take a ferry all the way back to where we are right now. So if you could just take us to a dock, and the guy's like, no, you can swim, and then we'll take you back to Cancun. So I'm like, fuck this and fuck you. I look at the guys, and I'm like, we're swimming in. And they're like, what? And it looks like I can stand. I grab all of our stuff. I give Joey the rest of it because the girls aren't tall enough. They jump in the water. I jump in the water with all the stuff on my head, like all of our bags and shoes and everything on our head.
Wait, how far out are you?
I mean, like a couple hundred, maybe 300 feet, maybe. Okay. It's a sandbar. It's a long walk, but I hit the water and I feel a sting on my finger as I hit the water. And I'm like getting off the stairs, off the boat, and I'm like, fuck! But I can't see anything because my hand is, my hands are above my head, like I'm going down to the watering hole to fill up the watering can, and then I'm walking it back up to the village, right on top of my head with all of our shit. And the water's just about to my chin, and Joey's a little bit taller than me, so about the same. The girls have to swim, and we very, very slowly walk onto the beach holding everything amidst all of these, like, sunbathers and people playing beach volleyball and jet skis. And it's
Where
like,
do they think you came from?
Yeah, and we look like refugees, just coming in from open ocean, a bit like a long walk in. And we get to the beach, and I fucking put that stuff on the ground for a second, and I'm like, oh my God. And I look at my hand, and my hand is covered in blood. And I'm like, what the fuck? My left finger, I see on my left finger where on my pinky finger, the area like to the left of the nail, I guess it got caught on the stairs, and it's just ripped a gash open where a giant chunk of my flesh is pulled open and is just shooting blood out. And I'm like, fuck. So I'm like, I'm not getting stitches or anything, right? And so I just I eventually get a Band-Aid and put it on, and then I have to deal with that for the rest of the trip. But then we just fucking take a cab. From that point, we just walk up to a cab, take a cab back to the dock, get in our golf cart, and go home. Now, the thing that I didn't mention that I couldn't tell you is I woke up that night, the morning of that trip at 3 a.m. with a nightmare. And Emily happened to wake up too. And she goes, what's wrong? And I go, I have a nightmare. I had a nightmare. It was really serious. And she goes, well, what was your nightmare? And I go, I dreamed we were out on the boat and we got stuck like open water and there was nobody to rescue us. And we were just floating there forever. And then eventually we died. And she's like, well, that's not going to happen. Go back to bed.
So there was this underlying tension. Did you ever give each other little looks?
Yeah, the whole trip, the whole time. Yeah, the whole time.
Nobody wanted to mention it.
Yeah. So I think I did okay there. I hope I covered that properly. Oh, and I don't know if it's been apparent at any point, but at no point in this it was over 7 hours, did I see a whale shark.
I would love to see the GPS path on a map of where the hell you went. I'd love to know at what point was the GPS tracking a phone in a shoe flying 30 feet between two.
Oh my God, dude. There was about an hour where I thought we were going to die and about 30 minutes in the middle of that where I wanted it. I was just so nauseous and unhappy and just beat to hell from the sun and just and starving but nauseous and
you
just
paid to do
bruised.
That.
Yeah, we didn't get a refund. They wouldn't give us a refund.
What a disaster.
How many days in was that to your trip?
That was day 3 of 7, I think, or 6.
Okay, so nice in the middle.
Yeah.
What a bonding experience, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, we bonded over tragedy. Dude, I'm telling you, having a guy scream, go now, when you are not ready to get in open ocean and swim 30 feet to another boat and not sure what's supposed to happen when you get there is not a fun experience.
I just don't understand how whenever there are instructions for you to like get in the sea or get in the boat or switch boats, why was it always so frantic?
We don't know. I don't know.
Don't understand.
I don't know. I don't know. I wish I could tell you. But I'll tell you this, we've all agreed, nobody was up for it by the end of this trip because we were exhausted, but we're all getting go now tattoos. Because that's all we said to each other for the rest of the trip. Go now. Anytime, anything. You want to go get dinner? Go now. Because it was, I will hear that on my deathbed. Go now. I'll never forget that man, those two men screaming that those two times.
From the way that they were screaming that, I was half expecting like an out of control boat with no brakes just coming hurtling towards you, and he was like, jump out the way of it.
I'm starting to wonder. It's like, what, was the boat gonna catch fire any second? Like, were we like as we were like fucking speeding away? I kept waiting to see if there was like a little mushroom cloud behind me, you know. I don't know if they were just like, the guys were just stressed the fuck out because they were also 40 or 50 miles out into open ocean with a boat that didn't work and they didn't know how to get back or what, and they couldn't fix it. But God fucking damn it, dude, that was not the place to be, and that was not a fun experience. And
not the place to be for the whale sharks apparently either.
No.
Yeah. And I'm kind of glad I didn't see him, because it felt gross when we were out there. There's like a ton of people in the water. There's a million boats and people are throwing up left and right. And I was like, man, if I was a whale shark, I wouldn't come within 1,000 miles of this shit, you know?
So how long were you in the water total?
Well, I was in the water for about a minute, going from one end of the boat to the other while the guy screamed, "No sharks here, no sharks here." And then I was in the water for the daring mid-ocean rescue, maybe 90 seconds to maybe take 90 seconds.
So the rescue was longer than the whale shark experience.
Yes, the rescue was longer than the whale shark experience, and there wasn't a whale shark experience for Joey and Tamara. They never got in the water, so their experience was only the rescue experience. And then the 45 minutes of just having somebody spray a garden hose in your face on the way home.
Oh, it sounds so miserable.
It's terrible.
Oh, that's horrendous.
A great Jeff vacation.